Welcome to the round table. I am Jennifer Eller, and with me today is my guest co-host, Taylor Petrie.
Hey, everybody.
Yes, welcome. Mike's on vacation, so Taylor's here today. We have our producer, Nick Wilson, and then our guest today is Nate Schmalzried. Yay! Welcome, Nate.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, hobbies. What hobbies do you like to have?
Hunting, fishing, golfing. I'm a firefighter too, so a lot of my hobbies kind of revolve around that. And
What are some firefighter hobbies?
just as far as,
Barbecuing,
yeah.
corn dogs. From the fair.
No, I always like to research and train, and I teach classes in the county and stuff as well. And so,
Like just for firefighters?
I'm getting ready to start helping with the high school starting a firefighter 1 and 2 program
Wow.
for juniors and seniors. So
That's awesome.
I'll be helping with that as well when the school year starts.
Will you be at the high school?
Yeah, some.
So we can come heckle you a little bit.
Sure.
Okay.
Go for it.
So will you do that like on your days off?
Yeah.
Or will that? Okay.
No, yeah, it's completely separate from the department. But
Wow, that's
yep.
awesome. That's great. Because I know a lot of kids do the, I want to say the jail program. I don't even know what that's.
They do.
Sheriff's
Oh, the
office.
corrections officers?
Yeah,
they
you
do
know,
criminal
that's-
justice and EMT,
yeah.
and they're kind of adding this on as well.
That's
so.
huge.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, for
Wow.
kids to know if that's something they like to do.
Yep.
So yeah,
What
that's
kind of,
great.
for fishing, where do you go fishing at? Ponds, lakes, rivers?
Yeah, wherever I can. I've got a couple spots on the river I go to, and the ponds out on Roush, where I used to work at too. I know a lot of those pretty well. So
Yeah. Do you take the girls out?
Yep, not as much lately, but yes,
Sure.
we've gone fishing a lot. So.
Awesome.
And then movies. Are you a movie watcher? Do you have a favorite movie?
Westerns usually.
Like old westerns?
Yeah,
Old ones.
I like John Wayne movies.
Okay.
So.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You can get engaged in those? Like you like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I don't know. I've been watching my
That's
grandpa
awesome.
loved them, so I started watching them with him, and yeah, I'd rather watch those than most newer stuff. So
Wow. That's awesome. Where do you watch them on?
Huh?
Like what?
oddly enough, I still have a bunch of them on VHS
Wow.
No kidding.
and something that plays them. I know it's weird,
Wow. I
but you
didn't
can
know.
get most of them on the streaming services as well. So
Yeah. Wow. John Wayne movies. That's the handlebar mustache right there. Now I've got a new nickname for you. John Wayne.
yeah,
What about Clint Eastwood's old movies?
they're good.
Are they just completely different?
They're just different. I wouldn't say they're as good, but
Yeah.
I just partial to John Wayne, I guess.
Well, what's your favorite movie of all time then?
That's hard. I don't know if I could come up with just one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Okay. So was church a part of your childhood growing up?
When I was little, yeah, we went to church in Bippus. I don't, I guess, remember exactly how many years it was, but it was quite a while. My grandma still went there and stuff too, and then kind of stopped for a while, and then started going to church again when I was middle school, high school. I mean, I did campus life and all that stuff. I won't say it was regular, I guess, just kind of intermittently, and then later on in high school, and then past that, not much. So
What was your faith like in that? So go to church as a kid is one thing, but then like if you're like me, like I was drugged to church growing up, but what was it like? Where do you think your faith was growing up as a kid, especially being in like campus life or anything? Was it your own yet, or?
I wouldn't say it was my own. It was more, a lot of my friends did it. I enjoyed it, and but I want to, I'm trying to think how to say this. I would say that there was something there, but I didn't really either understand it or was just kind of going along with everything else. And
Sure.
so I wouldn't say it was fully formed in any way. So
Yeah. So then you went, where did you go? You said Bippus?
St. John's and Bippus, and then we went to Union after that, and then
All the way through high school?
no, kind of just bounced around here and there, but Union, I would say predominantly Union.
Okay.
Back whatever year when we were in high school.
Oh.
I guess like probably been like 03, 04 probably is.
Yeah, fun fact, if you're watching, Nate and I have known each other since Northwest Elementary School, maybe even before that. Our families are connected somewhere down the
Cousins
road.
somewhere or another, but
Yeah.
our grandmas were really good friends.
Yeah, but shout out to Northwest Explorers if you're out there. Best elementary school any kid could have ever gone to, ever. Northwest is the best.
So like in high school, were you a partier? Did you struggle with things? Were you pretty straight and narrow? I mean, what did high school look like?
Overall, I was fairly straight and narrow. I mean, I drank some, and I wouldn't, I played football, but I wouldn't say I was a partier by any means. So
I remember like a very quiet demeanor.
yeah, I was
Like
fairly
don't
quiet.
angry, don't poke the bear. But like I remember Nate was a very gentle, very quiet kind of kid, but also had like a don't mess with me kind of attitude, because if you found that
Yeah.
was the football.
I had a short fuse for, I mean, I still do, but back then I had a short
Welcome
fuse.
to
as
the
a kid.
club.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I got along with most groups of people too. I wasn't, so.
Yeah.
So then Taylor touched on that you're a firefighter. So did you go from high school right into that profession?
Nope. I went to Purdue for 4 years. I majored in wildlife science. Then I worked for the DNR for 5 years out of college. And
That's the
then,
fishing spots right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I wondered how that fit in there.
Yep. No, I
got
worked for
some
the
hidden
DNR for
spots.
about
Yeah.
5 years, and then I got on the volunteer department when we moved back here in Markle, and then Huntington was hiring, so I applied, and I'm about halfway through my 8th year. So,
So why did you quit working for the DNR?
well, I guess when I got on the volunteer department, like I always liked working for the DNR. I liked being outside. I just didn't like the politics of it and the red tape and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I always just felt like should be doing something more different. I kind of always felt like that. And then when I got on the volunteer department, really enjoyed that. I liked helping people, and I felt like I was pretty good at it as far as, keeping calm and just kind of doing that. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed it, and I liked it better than the job I was doing, which was great, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do anymore, or needed to do maybe. And I applied and got hired, and
That's a hard process to even get through in and of itself.
yep, it
Very
was.
few people even can get in sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of the goal of the high school then? Like, is there an opportunity for more careers then?
There's a big shortage right now, career and volunteer firefighter wise. I mean, hiring people just don't want to do it anymore. And there's a big time commitment. There's a lot of risk, very little reward. The generation now, I feel is a lot more money focused, and I just don't think there's much of a calling, I guess I would say, for a lot of people to do that kind of stuff. So
It's like growing up when they're like, I want to be a policeman, an astronaut, a firefighter.
like a lot of people do that anymore.
No, what is it, like, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be an influencer. It's more of that culture, but
Yeah. So this program's supposed to, kids that are interested in that type of stuff, supposed to it'll give them the certifications they need for most fire departments, at least the basic stuff that they would need.
can they
By the time-
graduate and go volunteer like at Roanoke or Markle?
Sure.
Oh, wow. That's a huge help.
Yep.
And for experience for them.
And then most full-time departments, you have to be 21 to get on, but at least, if you get your foot in the door that way, and gets people interested. And
Yeah. And I think a big thing to get hired in is typically, are you volunteering your time in the first place?
Yeah.
For the most part, I think they look at that, don't they?
some departments do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some departments look at that. Some departments also just, they look at your work history. They look at, what other stuff do you do? They look at, some people like to hire brand new people just to kind of, I guess, mold them into what they
Yeah.
see for their department. But no, I think it's definitely a plus for most departments to start that way.
And what station are you at now then in Huntington?
I'm at Etna.
Etna.
Etna,
So
Station
if
3.
you ever want to bother them,
That's where I'll be.
that's where you find them.
So how many years have you been on the department then?
About 7.5.
Okay.
So
what does that look like being a firefighter? What is the station like? Like, is faith a part of that? Do you get to share that with your coworkers?
I would say it's a part of it, but it depends on who you work with and what the day is like. And I think a lot of people's faith is more, at least for us, it's, I guess I would say, more internal. There's talks about it sometimes, but a lot of it's just your own kind of deal with your own stuff. Now, that being said, we do have a good support system as far as, you can talk to pretty much anybody about things that are bothering you. And because we may not always all like each other, but we're usually all there for each other, depending
Well, you have a hard job that you
We
work
do.
with somebody, and so you have
And-
to watch out for each other.
Yeah, and it's just like having a bunch of brothers. We don't like I said, we don't get along some days, and other days we do, and we're with each other a third of the year, a third of our lives basically. So
Is your job hard to trust God at times? The things that you see, the calls that you go on.
yeah, there's been a lot of times you wonder, how does this happen to this type of person, or why is it, you go on a fatal accident and, drinking's involved, and it's never the drunk driver that gets killed. It's the grandpa or the mom or the, so yeah, calls with kids are really hard too. They don't, a lot of them don't have a shot at life, you wonder why. And then you look at some of the people that, the different people you go on, and it's like, I wonder why this happens this way or this happens this way. I mean, older ladies, little old ladies are hard for me too, just because it reminds me of my grandparents. So,
Well, talk about a little bit. So your upbringing, you're in church. You talked about like kind of, your faith isn't necessarily your own. Not that you were doing it to keep up with the status quo, but you're kind of, you're there, you're in church, you're involved in things. Other people are doing it. And then you go to college, you start working in a career field. You come to be a firefighter, and then you see things like that every time you're there at the station, every time you're on call or whatever on your shift. But when you start seeing those things like fatalities and accidents, like where does your faith go from where you were as a teenager or a kid to now you're here and you're not really still committed in your faith yet? What's it doing for you?
I don't know. We're really good at compartmentalizing stuff, I guess. So, a lot of times, and it's earlier on, you feel like you're not supposed to say anything and nothing's supposed to bother you. So you just kind of keep it all inside. You wonder, you think about it. I mean, we'll talk about it after calls sometimes, but a lot of it you just keep inside and move on. And
It's just the expectation.
just the expectation. And to me, that stigma's old and tired, and it's not the reality of life anymore. I mean, it's suck it up, move on doesn't, I think, apply.
Do you think more people are like more firefighters or people that deal with stuff like that, cops, even whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Think they're more open to talking about things like that or realize there's a need to get help?
I think so. We have a pretty good peer support network too, that was organized by one of our firefighters and started, and it's been used quite a bit, where you can actually call a number and talk to another firefighter, another cop, another EMT or whatever.
That's cool.
Talk to somebody that's actually dealt with the stuff that you've dealt with.
Do you think being a firefighter in a small town is also another thing? Like there's a chance that the call you're going to could be somebody you know.
Oh, yeah. I've done CPR on people I know, had, fatal wrecks with people I know.
Yeah.
Overdoses. I mean, a lot of, I've, as we know a lot of people being.
Well, so yeah, that. And so the shirt you're wearing, it's the helicopter I flew in, but yeah, it's that 9 line. It's from, part of what I used to do, but I can understand like, and Erica and I just talked about this not long ago, but like I used to come home at like 2 a.m. from a flight or something, and I'd just be like, hey, I'm home. And she's just like, I thought it was just part of your job. Like it's normal. You leave at this time, you come home at this time. I was like, yeah, there's a good chance that night when I would come in at 2 a.m. and give you a kiss back, I'm home. I'm probably like shaking, like I'm home. And it's just an expect, like it is. You put the uniform on, you do the task, you go out, you do your things. When you're deployed, it's a completely different game. But for you, that's like, I didn't experience this, and I want you to definitely talk about this. I didn't come home to kids and have to like put it aside to be dad. Erica was pregnant with Ren at the end of my military career, and I'm kind of thankful that I never had to leave and never had to share those experiences. But the kids will ask me now, like they see a helicopter and Ren knows like, Daddy, you flew in those. And I'll kind of explain. And I'm like, I never had to like deal with the day to day of things that I saw, came home with, or dealt with even, then have to like try to pretend. And so talk about that as a dad and a firefighter. What's that like?
It's hard. it's hard to, I mean, some guys are better at it than others. Sometimes it's hard to shut it off and switch gears, and especially if you're tired or you had a bad shift or a bad call, you don't always know you're even doing it. A lot of times it's, you know, my daughter would say something, I'd just snap at her, you know, not because she even did anything wrong necessarily, just because you're tired and keyed up, and it takes a while to unwind sometimes, depending on what kind of day you had. And I think, you know, you know, trying to leave your job at your job, I agree with that, but at the same time, it's not always easy.
There's only so much you can leave there.
I guess the one thing I'll share, and it won't be that much, but I had an infant fatality call 3 days before my oldest daughter Amelia was born.
Yeah.
So that was a struggle, to be in the hospital and then to, you know, have that connection with her after that. So I struggled with that for quite a while.
Oh, that's what I can't, like, I didn't deal with infants and stuff, like, or children.
So
Mine was, you know, grown people, but to come home to then, you know, if you see infant loss or child's, you know, however they die, you come home and then there's yours, like, the more precious that life really is. And that's just part of, like, the kids don't even, maybe they'll never understand that. But that's the things I think is crazy. Stephen Twyla Lee also told Erica and I this a long time ago when we did that Finding the Family, that kids don't view their parents as anything but the role. So they'll know you as dad, but they never really get to know you, which I think is crazy. Like, I never thought about it. I knew my dad as dad, but I didn't know Todd. You know what I mean? Like, do you think about that sometimes?
sometimes, you know, I hope when they're older, you know, they'll understand. Amelia has a fairly good grasp on it because she hasn't known anything different, and Quinn's young enough that, you know, she just is happy for the most part all the time. But
This is Amelia. She's like 6.
Amelia's 6.
And Quinn's 2?
Quinn's 2,
Two.
yeah, 2.5-ish.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
she'll, but Amelia, I mean, she still gets sad when I leave and go, but she also loves the fact that that's what I do. And she tells everybody that, and she comes, you know, she
That's
can come to the
cool.
station and, you know, put my gear on and get on the truck when,
Yeah.
you know, whenever,
Yeah.
That's so fun.
whenever
Yeah.
the weeks that I have her and stuff. And so it's nice. And, you know, the other, you know, a lot of the guys on the department have younger kids, and we can share those experiences with each other too. That's a lot of, you know, oh, my kid just did this, and have you ever had this issue happen?
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're raising kids at the same age, so you completely get it. What's that like? I mean, again, one of my things getting out of the military was like I could never really fathom a life where you watch people just so tirelessly and effortlessly really just leave their family behind, go do the job, come back. Divorce rates were super high in the military, and I just think of like to know like I'm leaving my kids for any period of time, months at a time. But for you, it's kind of like every 24 hours or like a period where like you're not going to see your kids unless they come to the station. Yeah. Is that rough as like just a dad, as a man? Does that take a toll on you? Do you get used to it?
I think you get used to it, but it's still not easy. And for me, it's, you know, less easy now because I only have them every other week. So that part's, so then, you know, I try to take time off the weeks that I have them, like, you know, because we still get vacation and stuff. So I try to use my vacation on the weeks that the girls are with me, so that I can have more time with them and stuff. And then, but no, it's still, it's hard. And
Well, then what do you think for their faith then? So now, and we'll get into like the faith side of like why you're here today soon, but again, thinking about your daughters, and they're looking to daddy, like they take some pride in the fact that you're a firefighter. You know, Amelia's really excited, like, this is what dad does. He saves people, he helps people, not knowing maybe
We're the
everything.
fire truck probably. You know, that's kind
This
of
stuff's
cool.
pretty
But
cool to see, not understanding all that comes
Right.
with it. But in the same sense, like you have made a very big commitment to, from the day that you walked in these doors, the way that you walked in these doors, like those girls, making church a priority for them, and then seeing how much they love being at church. What's that like to balance like their faith journey with what you're going through with your own faith journey?
a lot of pressure, but I don't know that I would change that part of it at all. It was nice to start that with them, and because we did. I mean, we really did pretty much start it at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's been nice. I look, how in wonderment Amelia is at stuff. And,
Yeah.
I remember the one sermon that Mike did about how, praying like a child and how that just say what you think, and that unwavering, that I believe this, and that it's nice. She says her prayers at night and stuff, and it's usually they're better than mine. So.
Well, she's at like that phase like Rin, where it's like a very, very inquisitive, very like all the questions, like, could this be in this and this, and what about this?
Yeah.
And I remember like when you first came, we had talked a little bit like, is there kids' church? What do I do? How do I get the kids involved? And the first day she came, her best friend from kids campus was in the classroom, and she tackled him. It was Riker Goss.
Oh gosh.
Oh, she tackled him. Ren was like, oh my gosh, Riker's here. And then they were inseparable. And it was just cool to watch like the innocence of her. Like, she's like, I'm at church now. This is just what we do. And to watch that level of innocence, because you're fostering that relationship, you're going to make it a priority for them. And that was just, I don't know, that's something I saw that was really cool to see, that you're allowing space for your girls to know Jesus through that. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. So one of the things you said early before we started talking about being a firefighter was you said we moved to Markle. So I assume you were married at the time that happened, that you moved there. So, and you got divorced. So what do you want to share in that journey? Because going through that divorce is what brought you then to Life Church. So I want to touch on that a little bit to put it into context.
Yeah. That was not a great time in my life. I won't go into all the reasons behind everything. I mean, I take a lot of fault in it, as too. And I just, things just don't work out. And going through that, I guess the lowest points that I've ever been, I would say, in my life were during that, and not really knowing what to believe in anymore. And the thought of, losing my kids, the thought of, just failing, basically.
That's an interesting thing to highlight too, is we didn't know this at the time, but I'd been back in Indiana for now, it's like year 4, and I'd run into Nate. It was like 3 occasions, like out in public, at my grandma's funeral, and then one day here at the cafe. And it was random, because it was Nate. And I didn't know, but that's what he was going through. Those thoughts were the things you were going through, is when we interacted. And I just think, like, to think of the thought of losing that like your kids, what happens then? But wake up and go be a firefighter, and wake up and just pretend to be a dad and be okay and cheery and happy. And that's not what we're talking about in faith, that it's offered. Like, that's a real suck that you're going through.
Yeah. I mean, I dumped a lot of it on my crew, that, the guys I was with that year, and I give them all the credit in the world, because they listened and they gave me advice, and several of them are divorced as well. And, I got those shared experiences, I guess, and not always saying I liked everything that they said, and sometimes it ticked me off, but I think all of it helped me to get through it, and they all meant well with everything that they did, and but no, it wasn't easy. I mean, it was trying to compose yourself and go and do all that based on whatever happened before, what was or what potentially happened during that day, that something would happen in it, and just keep going. And
we'll talk about the day that we ran into each other again, where I was just in the cafe, and you came in. I remember this because you came in an unusual way to the cafe. Usually people walk in like through the little door and on the right-hand side over here, but you walk through like kind of by the boutique area. And I was like, what's Nate doing here? And you were just like head down. You were just like, I don't know. You just like, I don't even know why I'm here, kind of.
Yeah, I was honestly, I'd started journaling as part of my like therapy stuff that I was doing. And
talk about that a little bit. What do you think? What does journaling do for you? Do you like that? Because Mike doesn't.
No, I absolutely hate to write. But I absolutely hate it.
Well, Mike says that's what he does every day. He started journaling.
Oh yeah,
a long time ago, I think.
Oh no, it was very helpful. I mean, I'm just not a writer.
Yeah.
I just, it's not my cup of tea, but I did it because, my therapist told me to. And honestly, it was very helpful. It helped me get through a lot of stuff too, and get the words out that I couldn't say or share with anybody else.
Is it a daily thing? Are you done doing it? Like, what was your?
I'm not done, but it's more intermittent now, I guess.
Okay.
I should do it more because it really did help. But in the middle of the divorce and everything, I did it every day.
Wow. Was that what was in your hand then? The journal? Okay.
And I just needed somewhere quiet to do that. And I was just driving and and I'd been here a couple times actually just prior to that, we came here on a call for somebody during church. And then,
Well, you're talking about mine?
no. No.
We need to bring that up.
Oh,
You
It's
got
okay.
called on.
No, hang on a second. Hang on a second. This is disclaimer. My wife is an amazing person. Okay. I'll give a little bit of background. This is part of why I asked this. There was a Sunday I was here and Erica kept calling me. And usually like my phone's on silent. Sometimes I leave my phone somewhere else. That's not a distraction. And it just kept going off. It was right before first service we had just set up. And I kept getting a phone call. And then my mother-in-law called me. And I'm like, okay, something's really wrong. And I get a hold of, I forget if it was Erica or her mom. And they're like, Taylor, the ambulance is on the way to your house right now. And I immediately am like, what? Like, stomach sank. And they said, something happened to Crew. And I'm like, and Crew was like not even a year old or maybe just turned a year old at the time.
yeah.
We had just bought the house. We were redoing it. And one of the things we were doing is putting all new windows in. And again, this is not my wife's fault. I'll take all the blame and responsibility. We had a window that was not installed yet. It was getting installed in our dining room. It was just leaning against the wall because our whole house was under construction. And Crew, I guess, had crawled up to it and pulled it. And it fell down on him. And he hit his head. It was just the concrete floor. And he hit his head on the concrete floor. Got up, and Erica said his eyes were rolling. He starts vomiting everywhere. She immediately called 911. She didn't even call me. So I'm flying up to town. And then that was the first time, that was the interaction number one.
Yeah, I think it was.
Because I was like, Nate's in my house. I was like, Nate Schmalzried? What are you doing here? And he was like, I just forgot he was a firefighter. But yeah, got a call to my house for my son, who, by the way, was completely fine.
He was fine.
It just, we give Erica a hard time about it still when we talk about, because there's that window, it still exists uninstalled in a back room locked away. But
That's funny.
that was the first time I saw you, which was just kind of a God thing, really.
Saw you there. Like I said, we had that call here at the church on somebody that had passed out. We had, we saw each other at like 3 or 4 different times at Walmart.
Yeah.
And
that's where you can find me. If you want to find me, I wear a hat to hide myself, but that's where I hide.
And then I walked into the cafe that day. So,
Wow.
So you weren't coming to church though at the time.
Nope.
But had you come to the cafe to journal any other time, or that day you just were led here?
I had brought Amelia to a birthday party here once, and then, like I said, right before that, we had that call, and then just was driving and wanted somewhere quiet to be, and
You thought of the cafe.
pulled in. So,
Wow.
and Taylor was here.
And Taylor
Well,
was
it's just funny because I think Mike's talked about this recently, but like the whole idea why we call it the Cafe of Hope is like, for whatever reason, you could just end up here and have it. I mean, not about me, but like just the opportunity to talk about your faith with someone who just might be sitting in there. Like, I wasn't like we had a meeting set up or anything. It was just like,
he literally just said, "Are you okay?" Because I obviously didn't look okay, and I just pretty much lost it and told him everything. And
yeah. And that was some of the questions we talked about that day. We're like, your head was held low. I could recognize like this guy's for sure going through something. And we were sitting at the table, and I just like, you had told me everything going on, the things you were struggling with.
Yep.
And I remember asking, like, well, where's your faith? Not to be like, Nate, just have some faith, but like, where are you at on your journey? And that's where I just like recognized, like, not everybody that goes through a hard time is someone who's struggling in faith. Sometimes they're not even sure what to comprehend or how to say, like, this is my faith and I'm struggling.
Yep.
He was like, I question if there could be a God, because sometimes there's things that I see that just rattle me. What I'm going through right now makes me question, and here's where I'm at, but I'm trying to figure out what I need to be doing different. And that was huge.
yeah, I recognized that there was something missing with because you build up enough walls in your life with most everything, whether it's your job or relationships or whatever it has that you need to build a wall up for. And then when they all come crashing down, you don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
I guess would be a good way to put it.
And scripture tells us about that, like building a house without a firm foundation. It's like building it on sinking sand. Like it's all just going to fall apart. It's all going to crumble. And you were in the middle of experiencing that. But then I remember your willingness, which I think is also crazy, like that God does this. Like I did this in a Christian worldview class a long time ago, that people will be brought to their lowest point in order for them to find him. And often he's guiding that process. And so like you were broken. I mean, not to sugarcoat it, not to rub it in, but like you were broken. But that was the thing that brought you to church the next week. Or maybe it was 2 weeks after.
It was. I think I was on shift the next one. But then I came after that because I remember asking, and to his credit, honestly, he never once said anything about coming to church. Never told me really anything about it. And then
I didn't invite you.
By the end of it, no.
Taylor, gosh.
No, honestly.
Part out.
No, honestly, you just talked.
Oh,
And
well,
I
I'm glad I do that a
because
lot.
to my point to that is by the end of it, I asked him when the services were.
Oh, okay.
So you got saved. So.
Yeah, usually that's the first thing I do now is like I'm always like, well, hey, you should come. You should just be a part of this. But I hate to.
And honestly, for me, that probably would have been. I'm glad you didn't
push you away.
Not necessarily push me away, but I think it was something I needed to make the first step towards. Not, hey, you need to come do this with us.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think it's actually kind of a hard part of inviting people. Like you run into people in the community that are just broken, like just like anybody. We all are. But like, there's a stigma to say, oh, just come to church and we'll take the brokenness away for you. Because that's not. I wasn't trying to promise that for sure. If I would have invited you, like, we ain't gonna fix this right now.
Nope.
But I know the end game that Jesus will take all of those things away from you. Might not be right now, might not be on this side of earth, it might be on that side in heaven. I don't know. But yeah, I think there's a big issue in our evangelism to people, just to help people. It's like, oh, we'll just come to church. Like, yeah, I want you to come to church, but it's not necessarily going to be that way. Like, I would rather sit down and continue to have had coffee with you until you would have asked, which apparently you did that day. But but that I think is just interesting how simple of a conversation that we had, though. You were for sure you needed to talk to somebody, and I'm glad. Like, I wasn't even going to be here that day. Again,
I remember you telling me that.
Not about me. I remember like I didn't know why I showed up there that day because it was one of those like, I'll show up, I'll sit there for a little bit, I'll just do my computer work there instead of just going and doing it somewhere else because I have another meeting to go to. Like, I'll just pop up in the cafe, and maybe that's my way of hearing from God and being like, you need to show up for somebody. And again, I didn't even do anything for you, just listen.
Yep.
You knew what you needed. I think honestly, you and God sorting something out in front of me.
Yeah.
If I had to say.
I agree. And I think Taylor, honestly, I mean, I don't have a single doubt that he kept getting put into my life randomly because there's really no, there's no, I'm a reasonable person. Like I try to reason things out a lot.
Yeah.
And for me, that one was very clear later on once I started to think about all of that. It's like, this makes no sense why I keep seeing this guy that I haven't seen in 15 years.
Yeah.
When you started coming to church again, what was that like? Like when you came here, even like just what was not like life church experience, but for your faith journey now, like you're back into something that you were like you were there. It was something you did, and then it kind of came like a I don't know, a distant thing or however you want to call it. But then you come back, and what was it like when you started attending church again?
Uncomfortable.
Really?
Initially.
In what way?
Just felt like I didn't, and I'll be honest, 100%. I don't understand a lot of it still. I'm not the guy you want quoting scripture or any way, shape, or form. So I felt almost like I shouldn't be here, or like I didn't know enough to, if that makes sense, like the stories and things, and not that I don't know the Bible, but I don't understand a lot of it still, and a lot of my own mind at that time, I didn't know. I think I knew I needed something, but I had no idea what that was. And initially it was very uncomfortable sitting, of course, because I'm by myself too. And then, and then I started to see people I knew. And then I started to see more people I knew. And then,
Was that the uncomfortable part?
No, I think it was just being back in church was just uncomfortable for me for a little while. Cause I wasn't sure if I should be here because I'd been gone for so long. Does that make sense?
Felt like,
I almost felt guilty. I almost felt guilty for going through something that bad that's what brought me back to church instead of just going back or knowing that, getting
Like
to that point.
it took trauma to bring you
Basically,
back.
essentially, yeah.
And that's what you felt guilty about, was
I
just
think
like,
so.
it really, like, God, you really had to do this, or this had to happen in my life, whatever it was,
Yep.
in order for me to be here.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. In my mind, it's like, well, I shouldn't have had to get to this point in order to come back here.
You know, I think this is also an interesting thing. My mind wanders a lot, you know this.
Yeah.
So I said, like, if you could put like a metal detector at the front door, but instead of like checking for metal, it would like automatically switch your personality, or like what you were projecting, to really what you felt as you walk into a church. Because every single person that walks in the door on a Sunday has a smile on their face. And I would say that that is true for maybe 10% of the people that are here on a Sunday morning. Like,
Because we're all struggling with something, or they have guilt of something or something.
But then, like, if we don't talk about it as a church, or have a plan to do anything about it as a church, we all feel like Nate and do nothing about it. Now I'm like, I just, not that I want to be like, oh, look, what a crappy week you've had. Welcome. Like, I don't want to be that guy that you want to punch in the face because I'm happy and you're not. But like, I come in here at times where I'm like, not that I don't want to be here, but I'm like, something in life is so heavy. And I don't want to pretend that I'm happy right now. But if I don't pretend that I'm happy, then everybody's going to be like, oh, well, stay away from him because he's got icky baggage and stuff that's going on in his life. And I'm like, but that's part of discipleship.
Yep.
Like, I couldn't help you if I didn't know what you were going through that day. If you came into the cafe and were just smiling, we would have never had the conversation. But that's why I wish, like, people would walk in the front doors and just be honest. Like, this is a crappy week. It's not like I need guidance right now. It's just life sucks right now. That's okay. Like we're here for that. And then I think what's interesting though is that many people would feel the same way and just do nothing about it or say nothing about it. So I can't imagine how many people sit in church on Sunday and feel uncomfortable. And the whole coming back to church crowd is a whole other thing. Like, a generation that misses our generation. Like, we're the missing generation from the church that's coming back to church. Like, I know what you felt. The first Sunday I ever walked into church with Erica, I was like, yeah, whatever he's saying up there, I've got no clue. So I'm the weird one in the room who doesn't know, and all these other people understand what the preacher's saying. But that's just like part of our own barrier, I think, and our own walk with Christ, because most of us don't know exactly what the Bible's saying about certain things. We have great ideas, great theologies, great doctrine to uphold these things. But there's times where, even if I'm going to present a sermon, I'm like wrestling with something. I'm like, hang on a second. My understanding is this. And I wish God would just be like, boom, here it is. Big sign. But like, I'm walking through that and you're walking through that.
Yep.
So I don't know. There's some barrier or stigma to coming to church where you feel uncomfortable just because you don't know the Bible all the way. That's part of our job though.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even so much that, like I said, it was almost just like I felt like like I said, getting to that point in order to come back.
Yeah.
It made me feel like I was doing something wrong almost, or like but in the end,
Like, not worthy to have
Did you
that.
feel like
Something.
a hypocrite or something like
Maybe.
that? Because, like, okay, I know
Yeah.
who God is because I went to campus life, I went to youth group,
Right.
I know who he was, but I did my own thing,
Yeah.
and now I need him.
But then I went how many years without going to church
Yeah.
and without reading the Bible and without praying.
But that's a
and,
lot of our stories. I
It
mean, I
is.
was out of church 13 some years, and life, but God's a God of forgiveness, and God's a God who loves, and he's right there waiting for us. So no matter what we're going through, when we get to that point, he's still right there.
Were you-
Well, I realized
waiting
that
to
after
welcome.
I got
Yeah, I know you do, but yeah, that's what.
Part of your fear you talked about, like, or discomfort, do you think that was from coming back to Huntington, Indiana? I still run into people here at church and they'll be like, I didn't know you come here. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I work here now. And you might see me up there in just a second. Like, because my story, I was a terrible person. Like, don't be around Taylor Petrie. He's not the kid. But I lived a whole, like, I don't even think my family knew that side of my life. It was just a complete mask, and it was just to fit in and feel accepted. And to know what God's done in my story, I get. But when you run into people that are here, knowing, like, if I know about Nate, do you feel that, and not just saying Life Church, but church in general, or people, like, would judge you? Like, oh, I know what he's been through, so when he comes here, it's just a fake thing.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, at least I would hope not.
Right.
But
No, I mean, that's true. I just think that some people have that, like, if you get to know me, if they know all my baggage, they'll think completely different of me. Like the woman at the well, we kind of talked about this, like from this Sunday. Like, if you think about being an outcast in your own community and then going back and becoming the person to essentially evangelize and share the greatest news ever of salvation and forgiveness, like, I just think there's a heaviness to being known. Like, we don't want to really be known by people. We don't want to share all of our story, because the more you know me, the scarier it gets and the uglier of a person I become. But then finding your identity in Christ changes all of that. But the world doesn't understand that.
I would agree.
Like, a broken world doesn't understand forgiveness. Even I, as a believer, don't fully grasp the idea of forgiveness. Like, I think we scratch the surface and understand it in that way.
A big part for me too, I think, was when the girls started coming with me, and I just, like I said, I stood there and watched, and Amelia would, or well, initially she just went up to, did kids church, and she would come and be able to tell me the stories afterwards and have me drawings and stuff that Erica would do with her, and just, and talk about Jesus, and just, she was just so happy about it, and just so happy and almost just matter of fact, like this is what happened.
Do you think it revealed something within yourself, like on your own journey of, like, you're looking at your daughter, of like being with Jesus brings her joy, and like to know that like God wants the same thing for you, like in the middle, like if Amelia or Quinn, they grow up and they're going through hell, you want to look at them and be like, I hope that you find the most joy ever in Jesus, even though this world's going to let you down. Like, you want that for them.
I do.
Right?
Yes.
And so, like, you see that perspective from God to you ever?
Mm-hmm. I do. And I think a lot of, like I said, is just through them, is I just saw that pure joy and wonderment, and it just made me happy.
Wow.
And it made me wonder, like, if she can do this so easily at 6 years old, why am I struggling so much with it?
Yeah.
And then once I started, she would start coming and listen to the music, like before I'd take her up there, just because she's like, where do you go? Or what do you do? What part of this do you do?
Yeah.
And
did you color today, Dad? Like,
and I said, well, do you want to come in and listen to the songs? And she did. And that's where she met Jennifer.
That's
awesome.
Yeah. And I got him to go to the front row. Didn't know him to save my life. And they came up there and.
Yep. She said, well, there's a seat up by us. And Amelia said, okay, let's go.
And I'm like,
and
she took me up on that. So we walked to
the front row, and I sat there very uncomfortably the whole time. And Amelia was so happy. And then she, so.
That's. There's like a radiance to the childlike faith.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, when you would then go on call, if I didn't see Nate, I would still see Amelia and Quinn, but then I would see, like, with your mom.
Yeah.
And they would, like, that much joy in them to be like, I can't wait to be at church.
Yep.
And so no matter how it was going to happen, the family starts to work together and figure out a way to, like,
they did.
Not just get themselves to go to church, but, like, in a way, get themselves to go to church, because if it matters that much to them, then geez.
Yeah. When I wasn't able to, well, mom would come, and then when I wasn't able to, and she would bring the girls, and then my dad started to come too, and and that it was nice. And then that they realized how many people they know that go here. And then, I think my dad, when he comes, I don't think he talks to more people than I do the whole time.
Yeah. He's a known person.
Dad. Oh,
yeah.
Well, you know that.
He knows no stranger.
Right.
Everybody knows him. Yeah.
So since you've been coming to church, how has God transformed you?
I still haven't figured it all out yet.
That's okay. It's a journey. You'll never.
Never. I'm learning.
Yeah.
I guess I've always been the guy that has a plan A through F, and or I'm looking 18 steps ahead, trying to figure out, well, if this happens and this happens and this. And Taylor and I talked a lot about this because he was the same way, and kind of like how you mentioned how, well, okay, my daughter's standing on the couch right now. If she falls this way, this might happen. If she falls the other way, this is going to happen.
Every outcome.
And if I can catch her, how quickly do I have to? And I learned very fast, I guess, that with what I was going through, there was I couldn't control it anymore. I could do what I could, but in the end of the day, there was nothing that I was going to do that was going to change any of it. And there was nothing that I was going to do that was going to make an outcome happen or not happen. As much as I tried to control it, or question my lawyer about this or that, going through everything and try to find out, what do I need to do here? And then some days the answer was literally just nothing. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow, was to sit around and do nothing and just trust that.
Yeah, surrender. You learned to surrender.
Yeah. And that I think is when I truly, and I'm still not great at it. I still struggle with
Welcome to the club.
trying to control the outcome of things. But when I truly had that realization that I just need to let go, I think I became a lot happier. Or maybe not happy necessarily, but more at peace and more able to, because, I mean, when you go through things like that, it affects every part of your life. So it affects you as a person, you as a parent, you as in your job. And when you try to control all those aspects, you end up being not very good at any of them. Or something goes wrong with all of them. And for me, just saying, okay, I've got nothing left that I can do, and I'm trusting that Jesus can do it for me.
Yeah, I think I use the analogy of the hats. Like you have different hats. So you're a dad, you're a husband. Now you're a husband.
Again,
I was going to talk about that. We're almost out of time, actually. So
we need to get
So
just talk about really quick where you're at, and then we'll talk about the
finding
hats.
love again. So that was on my thing. So so what is that? How did God bring that together? That you and Whitney,
you went from
this
this to this.
Yeah. So how'd you meet? I mean, tell us your love story.
We worked together. She used to be a paramedic here, and then now she's a nurse. And we were friends, and then through all this and just got together, and she's been there for pretty much every step of the way and helping me, and not only in my journey through all this but faith as well. So
Do you think she understands the other components of your life that are hard to get other people to know?
Yes.
Like you both see similar things, or
yeah, I think
it
very
helps
much
to be
so.
able to. Do you feel like you can openly talk to her about all that stuff, or is it something you still hold on to now?
No, I could talk to her about anything. Yep.
Because so then we'll tell a little bit. So when was what was first date like? Where was it?
We went out for brunch.
Where at? Say the Country Post.
No.
Something nicer.
Proximos in Fort
Oh, that's fancy.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, good for you. Okay, Proximo.
Yep.
What was that like? Was it a blind? Had you had any you'd been in social gatherings together before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were friends before.
Okay.
So
It wasn't just a randomly we just showed up to. Okay.
So no, it was fun. It was a lot of fun and very natural, and just kind of went from there. And
does she hunt and fish?
I won't say a lot. We haven't done a lot of that, I guess, but so she'll go.
Yeah.
Whether or not I want her out there with me when I'm hunting, I'm not really sure. But
funny.
I have a feeling we won't see anything.
What do you guys do for what's your activity together? What's something you guys enjoy doing?
Honestly, just we like to go out to eat, just finding new different restaurants, places and stuff, and just honestly anything. We just enjoy. She's a very spontaneous person.
Oh,
I'm not.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So she's kind of helped me loosen up in that aspect too. And just sometimes it's just a random.
We're going.
Let's go.
Yeah.
It's 8:30 at night, and we're gonna go to Roanoke and get ice cream.
You just started your John Wayne movie, and you're like,
Yeah, I know, and I'm not having it.
She's like, but there's ice cream. You're like, all right, I might be in.
So that stuff's and like I said, and she's been great going with all of it, and knowing that I still struggle and with everything, and we both have emotional baggage and trauma that we bring into this, and recognizing that in each other, and being there for each other.
That's why I say there's the dichotomy of being known, is that you come back to that. It's hard to really know my whole story, and very few people are really going to know it.
Yeah.
But then when you find that person that you can grow really close with, and then the things that you once were not dealing with or talking about or confronting, now you can openly do it, and you're like, yeah, this is simple.
Yep.
Because that's why I talk about the hats. That's why you're your husband, you're a dad, you're a firefighter, you're a friend, you're a son. And there's times where when you're in control, you have that hat on, and sometimes you forget to take it off when you walk into the next place, and then you feel like you're it's just chaos. And then it's a train wreck. You're like, oh shoot, I have my firefighter hat on while I'm trying to be a dad. And the kids are like, Dad, why can't we connect? Why aren't you being present in the moments? And then when you realize this is out of control, and you just rely on control like I do, that's when I think I've been humbled by God, and I recognize like sometimes that's what he has to do in me to make me recognize like it's not about you. Like I just need you to listen to me and be obedient, and I've got it in control. And to see that part of your life change, like the structure, the organization, the way you can communicate, the way I can see you even like literally like turn a 180 in many ways. Yeah, like to see that. Like we didn't even see the teeth underneath that mustache for a long time. And I think that's what's beautiful to see, like how at your lowest, at the bottom, that God would use you in a way that you couldn't even explain to bring you to a place where not only are you happy in your marriage and are you happy and fulfilling that role of being a dad and a son, but you're also like seeking God in a way that I think is really cool to see, where most people could walk away and be like, I'm done. I have no reason. You went deeper and you found him. I think that's as you're discovering those parts of him, really, like, and it's funny because scripture also tells us that we really don't even seek God. He seeks us.
Yep.
And he searches for us and he draws us near. So in the middle of what we thought was our search, he was just sitting right there the whole time. Like, and that's part of your story that I for sure see is that like the little moments, like fire department's in my house. Nate's at my grandma's funeral. Nate's in the cafe. That was just God ordaining those moments to draw your heart. And then again, just to see you here today and every time you guys are here at church, like that's a huge encouragement.
Yeah.
Because I can visibly see God working in your life, whether you know it or not.
No, and sometimes it's still hard to see it based on what's going on any given day. But I I do have that peace, I guess now maybe. I mean, it's peace and chaos at the same time between the kids and everything else. But it's that peace of knowing that there is something more there and trying to put him first and everything, which I don't know, when you try to control, like we talk about controlling all the outcomes, you're essentially putting yourself first and you're putting your family first, which is great. But for me, then when that doesn't happen, you have nothing left to fall back on. And so now I do.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah. So, I mean, it'll be neat to, as you keep going on your faith journey, as the job that you have, how you can bring light to bad situations, how, Jesus is going to show up in those moments, so that kind of came to me. So, well, thanks Nate for coming on.
of course.
Yeah.
I think we touched on about everything that we wanted to touch on. So it was great to
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
hear your story. And
You're right. I did forget the camera was there. You were right.
See, you told you. Everybody always thinks, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be really easy. So, So thanks everybody for watching the roundtable today. If you haven't liked us, please do so you can see all the episodes that we have coming out. If you like this episode, share it with people so we can get this on more people's feeds. So we appreciate, you listening today. Thanks again, Nate, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.